Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular business meeting of the Commission on Police Practices. Let's go to the roll call. Ms. Condi.
Oh, I don't have a microphone. So thank you so much. Can you hear me? Perfect. Okay, I'll go ahead and start with commission roll call. Chair Gloria Tran. First Vice Chair Dennis Brown. Here. Second Vice Chair Doug Case. Commissioner Aguilar. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Armentrout. Here. Commissioner Aziz is not here. Commissioner Benitez is, I believe she's still excused, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, Commissioner Byer. Here. Thank you. Commissioner Canson is not here. Commissioner Diaz. Not here. Commissioner Flores. Thank you. Commissioner Griffin Jones is excused. Commissioner Harvey. Not here. Commissioner Hilbert. Thank you. Commissioner Justice. Commissioner Molmat. Thank you. Commissioner Honore. Thank you. Commissioner Larkin. It's not here. Commissioner Rodriguez. Thank you. And then Commissioner Rubio is excused. And then I will go ahead and do for the ad hoc personnel committee roll call. And we have first vice chair, or sorry, committee chair Brown. Here. Thank you. James Justice. Here. Thank you. Clovis Honore. And Darlan Molmat. Here. Thank you so much. That concludes roll call.
Thank you. And just point out after you speak, please turn off your mic because the rest of the mics don't work if your mic is on when you're done speaking. So thank you, Ms. Condi. Okay, now we have approval of the minutes. Are there any changes that you would like to see on the minutes? Thank you. Commissioner Justice moved for approval. Commissioner Byers seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? All right, one abstention from Hilbert. Thank you. All right, moving on to non-public, non-agenda public comment. Ms. Obi?
Thank you, Chair. We have two in-person non-agenda public comment. The first person is Francine Maxwell. Please come to the podium. You'll have 2 minutes.
Francine Maxwell, Southeastern San Diego resident. I attended Saturday meeting, and it should have been on Zoom. We have a history of doing CPP meetings on the soccer field so that we can get the maximum participation. So coming to Balboa Park on a Saturday was ridiculous. Many people could not participate because we are a tourist attraction all year round, but coming here on Saturday was just not a smart move. As far as the ED, there was an event, and I'm concerned that the ED, to my understanding, and I could be totally wrong, is to oversee complaints coming electronically and through the CPP email. Although staff processes the complaint, the ED should have access to be looped into the complaints being forwarded to IA. We had citizens here complaining, and everybody had a look on their face that they never saw it. They didn't see what was sent to one of the constituents, and they have a valid complaint. They're filing a federal lawsuit. And how does that build trust with the city and the community if we don't know? And so if the process has changed, we need for you guys to tell us. We completely understand as a community that this is a volunteer commission, that our ED is interim, but we know that a manager manages, we know that a leader leads, and a facilitator is just here for a paycheck. So let's be clear to make sure that the community who voted unanimously together to build trust in the oversight, that we know what our processes is so that people can't make up stories and think that aliens are landing, because what happened Saturday was just unacceptable when everybody said they had never heard of any of his complaints. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kate Vendetti, who will be speaking on 2 separate non-agenda items. You'll have 4 minutes. Please keep each item under 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kate Yavendetti. I have 2 things I want to talk about. One is a follow-up on the community forum that Francine was talking about, which I'm surprised actually was not on the agenda for a report back. But I discovered after the community forum that the community panel of interviewees has already been chosen by whom, I don't know who, by how, I don't know who. I don't know who they are. And I've been assured by Dennis that, you know, everything's fine and that I will like the people on the panel and I know most of them, but that's not the point. The point is the process. We need transparency. The community needed input into what organizations and or individuals were going to be represented on that panel. So I just want to express that as my extreme dismay at the lack of transparency of that process. I'm told I can't even know who's on the panel. So that's confidential. It's not confidential. What's confidential is what goes on in the panel, but not who's on the panel. The second thing I want to talk about is completely different, and it's an incident that happened at Chicano Park over the weekend. This is the second incident that I'm aware of, is because I have family members who are involved with Chicano Park, where teenagers have been harassed, SDPD at Chicano Park, detained, and then nothing, you know, no charges filed. This last one over the weekend, I've already told Gloria about it. Let me just tell you about a little follow-up that Gloria doesn't know about. So what I do know about is that there was a 14-year-old who was just walking down the street at Chicano Park, got stopped by the cops. His parents were like behind him, got stopped by the cops, detained, taken away by the police, put into a holding cell in Central Jail with an adult inmate who apparently assaulted him. Now, first of all, teenagers don't get just taken away like that, and their parents aren't told what's going on. They don't get taken to Central Jail and put in with an adult inmate. So they asked me for resources, and I've given them a whole bunch of resources like filing a complaint. And of course, no complaint has been filed. And let me tell you why. There was a follow-up meeting that my niece went to, where they were going to be telling people about their rights as juveniles with the police department. And let me just tell you what she told me. It ended up being more of a collective of horror stories than a training. Most people already knew their rights, but the rights are being violated constantly. These are all people primarily from Logan, by the way. People are also afraid to report to CPP because the police have retaliated against complainants from the previous reporting processes in the recent past. It was emotionally draining in a way that surprised me. That's my niece. People were sharing when they complained that police pick them up and drop them off in other neighborhoods and announce they are from Logan, so they get beat up. One lady said she made a complaint. The police started telling people she was an informant, so she would get beat up. Of course, she's not an informant. People shared stories about police driving by their houses and throwing up white supremacist gang signs after they complained. So if you wonder why you're not getting complaints from what's going on in Chicano Park and other parts of Logan, this is a true story that I'm telling you about.
Thank you. This concludes public comment on this item. We have no virtual attendees.
Thank you, Ms. Obeid. Second. All right. So I turned my camera back on. My apologies. All right. So we have the cabinet report. Just want to give you some information, and then we do have a vote coming up on it. The cabinet appeared at the City Council's Public Safety Committee meeting this afternoon to update the committee on the CPP actions. This is the second time the CPP appeared before this committee. We discussed the commission's accomplishments and challenges. We thank Chair Marnie Von Wilpert for inviting us to share the update. For the next item in our cabinet report, I would like to note that this information was approved by our outside counsel, Mr. Dwayne Bennett. Since he cannot be here to present this item, I will do so keeping in mind he has carefully reviewed this statement. The cabinet would like to continue the discussion of the commission's conflict of interest policy. At the February 21st, 2024 CPP meeting, the commission voted to approve the conflict of interest policy and disclosure form for use when a commissioner has knowledge of, is involved in, or helps a citizen file a complaint against the San Diego Police Department. It went into effect immediately, and an email was sent to commissioners with instructions and attachments. Ms. Obi, do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, we have one public comment on the item A. Ms. Francine Maxwell, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Francine Maxwell, Southeastern San Diego resident. I'm hoping those commissioners that didn't get a chance to watch the meeting live, you go back and you watch the loop, because it was very disrespectful. As a community member that has helped people with victims assistance because of what's been happening in pursuits, Raul Campino made it blatantly clear that nothing you suggest, anything that you move forward, will he even keep in mind. I'm looking at one of his statements was things aren't black and white. And although we are happy that him and his family are safe from being hit by a drunk driver, his personal animus may be impacting what you may be suggesting moving forward, the recommendations as it pertains to police pursuits.
I just want to make it clear, you're talking about the Public Safety Committee meeting this afternoon. All right, it started at 2 p.m. and it was at City Council chambers. I just want to make that clear what she's referencing. Thank you, Ms. Maxwell.
You're welcome. So I got to get my few minutes back right there because she paused me. I'm just playing, but I just I want to be fully transparent, and I want to make sure that this commission is thinking of Plan B and C when it comes to making sure that transparency, open and honest dialogue, and government is shared with the community. We do not want to go backwards. We want to continue to move forward. And today I felt the CRB in the room under Raul Campino's presentation when he got to talk about the presentation afterwards. So I just want to make sure that you understand where the community is coming from. We are getting to know you. You are still getting to know the community. But at the end of the day, we want to leave everything behind and we want to move forward and get oversight to where it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes public comment on this item.
Thank you. So as we continue on the conflict of interest policy, last week, Internal Affairs Captain Jeffrey Peterson notified the chair and the interim executive director that some commissioners identified themselves as commissioners for the CPP and filed a complaint on behalf of a member of the public. He expressed his concern about the involvement of commissioners in filing complaints and the conflict of interest that it presents for the commission. After discussing with Mr. Dwayne Bennett, we immediately reached out to those commissioners, discussed the issue, and asked them to file the conflict of interest forms. As we have discussed at previous public meetings and codified in our adopted policy on conflict of interest of commissioners involved in complaints, the involved commissioners were informed that they would have to disclose and recuse themselves from consideration of the complaint in question. While a commissioner has indicated they would recuse themselves from reviewing this particular case, our outside counsel, Mr. Bennett, advises that if commissioners are involved extensively in helping a citizen file a complaint, it may be prudent for the entire commission to recuse itself from any review of that particular case. This is to ensure the impartiality and protect against legal challenges to the decisions of the CPP and to be transparent to the community and the department. We will have a vote in a moment. Any discussion on that? Bert.
So I guess I just have a question. So in the off chance that happens where the full commission has to recuse himself from reviewing, what's the process? How does that complaint get reviewed?
It will not be reviewed by this body, and we will announce that in public forum so that it is transparent. Commissioner Honore.
I'm seeking clarity on the issue. Could you repeat under what circumstances would the entire commission be forced to recuse itself from reviewing a case?
According to Mr. Bennett, if commissioners are involved extensively in helping a citizen file a complaint, and what we would do in that case, yes, it is subjective. We would consult with him and work as a cabinet. Well, to vote on that with him prior to doing that, if that's what the
So should I wait until the issue actually has a motion on the floor before inquiry? Because it seems very strange that if we have a commission of 25 people and there's no number defined in the statement you just made, if 2 people are extensively involved in one single complaint, it seems strange that the other 23 would have to recuse themselves from a complaint they have nothing to do with.
when it was discussed with the cabinet, it was the fact that how extensively they were involved. Did they file the complaint for a resident? Did they identify themselves as commissioners? That taints the entire body, quite frankly. I will make a motion and then we can discuss further. So therefore, I move that the cabinet and/or legal counsel be empowered to determine whether the extent of a commissioner's involvement in a case requires commission recusal. Is there a second? Okay, Commissioner Justice seconded. Discussion now. And let me be clear. We hope this doesn't happen. We hope that commissioners are using, we know we have community members who do this sort of thing, but not to the extent where it can taint a case. So we ask the commissioners to be extremely careful about how they handle themselves out in public. Commissioner Malmet.
I'm just wondering if the issue is we need to be trained on what we can and cannot do. And maybe that would be a more important thing to do than set up a circumstance where the whole commission would be recused from something.
I think that training is definitely part of that process, and we can include that in the motion if that's the case. Commissioner Honore.
This still sounds rather extreme to me. I'd be very interested in what legal framework and legal foundation such a comprehensive recusal would be based upon. Even if one commissioner decided that they wanted to actually file a complaint themselves, it does not seem that that would taint, as we are all members of the community and subject to police activity as well, nor that it would recuse the entire commission. It just seems strange. I'm very interested in the support that the legal counsel and the cabinet has for that position.
I do not have a legal background. This was discussed extensively with Mr. Bennett, and in fact, it was his recommendation to the cabinet due to how extensive some of the involvement was with certain commissioners. Commissioner Byer.
So our attorney, Mr. Bennett, said it would be the prudent thing to do might be to void the whole commission. Right, he didn't say it's legally required. And so I'm pretty much on the side of Commissioner Honore here, that it seems really extreme. Our job is to review these cases, review these complaints. And if we're completely unattached, if we're not participating at all in the subject that Mr. Bennett is talking about, we should be able to move forward and do what we're supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Benitez.
I complete agreement. I need to hear some precedents of other public commissions that have somehow been disqualified because of a similar circumstance. This is a really extreme measure. And we would need a definition of extensive. Was that the language in terms of a level of involvement? As presented, this is a very disturbing. So I need way more information.
Commissioner Harvey.
Okay, I'm asking a question in regards to this. Are we saying that if the commissioner actually filed the complaint for the community member, you're talking about someone that was just assisting.
In this situation, the commissioners were assisting the person and identified themselves as commissioners. And as commissioners, they felt that they had the right to do so to the law enforcement. And that is a little bit more than simply commissioners doing that as a support of a community member. Once you identify yourself as a member of this commission, and that is what one, then it puts the commission, according to our legal counsel, in jeopardy of being sued.
So then would there be, I mean, as far as legally, as far as the individual or commissioners recruiting themselves, I'm just not understanding how that would affect the entire commission if commissioners themselves that have done that recruit themselves from the.
As members of the commission, we have certain rules that we are charged with following, and that's part of our agreement as commissioners. We cannot identify ourselves as commissioners in the pursuit of certain activities.
So yeah, so again, so then we're asking, so we have policy in regards to that, and that has, if we do have that policy, then
yes.
If we're trained on that or violate that, there are repercussions for violating our policy.
Right. And again, it has great implications on the whole of the commission.
Okay, we have Commissioner Hilbert and then Flores and then Benitez. And then we're gonna have to wrap it up and I have an idea. Go ahead, Commissioner Hilbert.
I guess just a point of clarification, and it might help all of us to understand. So is the issue a commissioner out in the field identified themselves to a law enforcement officer at the time saying, I'm a commissioner? Okay, I think I agree that's the problem, but I think we need more clarification on that. I would hate, and I think what we're hearing from many of the commissioners here, I think need a number. If it was 10 commissioners that did something, that's a problem. If it's 1 or 2, I think those individual people need to recuse themselves. And I don't think that prevents the commission from being able to do their job. And I guess the second point is, I think before we vote on something, if we ever were to get to that point, I think we need some kind of a process or policy in place on how that complaint would be adjudicated, because one of the biggest things that we're supposed to do is review complaints. And I don't think, my personal opinion is, I don't think it's acceptable for us to basically go, oh, no, we're not going to review that one because, a problem came up. And I think the community would be upset to find out that there's, some case, which however rare it is, that we just wouldn't review because people touched it. And I think we need to be very careful at doing that.
I'm very new to this council, so I'm trying to figure out, is it useful to have the legal counsel come here so we can ask them questions?
Tonight, in fact, until he's here so he can explain, because I am not an attorney. So if we can, we have a motion on the floor. Yeah. Is there a second? Commissioner, everyone, let's go with Commissioner Diaz to second. Okay, discussion, go ahead.
I agree, but question, is the issue at hand not one of conflict of interest and more of undue influence? Like, hey, I'm a commissioner kind of thing, or is it, I'm trying to parse this out. So was that brought up?
It's some of both, yes, but hey, I'm a commissioner, the influence of power, or what did you call it? Yeah, taints the case, and the commissioner and possibly the commission, and we'll have Mr. Bennett explain that. But in our ordinance, I want to read that one of the causes, one of the things that we are warned against is conduct that impedes a member's ability to serve impartially and independently. That's written into the ordinance. So this is where that comes from. But since we have another motion to table this until Mr. Bennett is here, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? We're tabling it till next time when he's here. Okay? Thank you, everyone. I think it's something that we need to keep in mind constantly as we go around into our communities, because we are community members as well. So thank you. All right, so now we're going to follow up on our police pursuit here from last meeting. So we need to continue the discussion and see how we can review the policy training and make recommendations that we decided on after the meeting. They really do need to be timely options. We have some things that we can start the discussion with, but before we do, is there any public comment, Ms. Obeid?
Yes, we have one in-person public comment. And Ms. Francine Maxwell, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I want to make sure, because the public was offended, that the police did not come. The police were ordered not to come. The person that could come is an attorney. He happens to be a police officer. He's not a practicing attorney. He's done training. He happens to work in IA, so complaints come to him. And he would have been a very good presenter, to be able to answer questions from the commission that may have been raised through public comment or through the public presentation. So once again, this is another example as we begin on our journey of building trust, building full transparency. As David Neslight is leaving, tone should be set for the next one that's coming. Our city is about to get us a new police chief, just like we're about to get a new fire chief. The tone needs to be set right now that it is unacceptable for them not to be in the room when there's a hearing. I respect that we have an attorney that can read for you, interpret for you, but there's nothing like good old SDPD who needs to be in the room to answer the question. So I am hoping that you will be sending a formal letter to our COO, Eric Dargan, because the police chief reports to the chief operating officer, who happens to be Mr. Eric Dargan, who can set the tone for the new employee. Thank you.
This concludes public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Commissioner Honore.
Based on that testimony, I move that the commission draft a letter to the COO regarding the communities and perhaps this commission's disappointment that the chief of police ordered all police officers not to be present at this meeting. I'd like to see us draft such a letter.
That's not exactly the way it was shared with me. I spoke with the police chief himself. He said that based on legal counsel, they cannot attend. I'm just sharing what he said. So that's the way it was shared, straight from the mouth of the chief.
So the motion was made and the motion was seconded. And seconded by Ms. Care to recognize him.
Who second? Discussion.
I also wondering if we can invite their legal counsel, since police officers can't be here, can we have their legal counsel come and be present at these meetings?
Our legal counsel is the city attorney. We are more than happy to have any officials come to their meetings. We can invite them. Any more discussion on that one motion? I think, Commissioner Benitez.
I just want to say that the police department is in litigation over the issue at hand. If I were their attorney, I would tell them not to appear. I understand what you're saying about them being present and hearing from the community and participating in these conversations. But when you are involved in active litigation, you don't do that. You cannot do that. Like, I get it. I understand like why they weren't here. And I understand the importance of them being present for these hearings at the same time.
Commissioner, second Vice Chair Case.
Well, first of all, I want to agree completely with Commissioner Benitez. But I think what was being suggested was that we communicate with the COO to give direction to the new police chief that he or she is expected to cooperate and be present at the meetings and hearings of this commission. And I think that would be a good thing to do. But with regard to this particular case, particularly since we had people present who were likely litigants and so forth, no attorney would allow their client to attend under that situation, and that was explained at the beginning of the meeting.
Do you want to change your, amend your motion and not just on this pursuit and going forward?
Sure, I'll accept that. And my motion was not to mandate that they actually have people present here, but to express our disappointment. And I understand the legal context, right? However, comma, if the police department can't be present, again, maybe Mr. Darkin can be present, maybe somebody from his office. You know, the idea is utter tone deaf insensitivity on the part of not just the police department, but the entire freaking city of San Diego about what happened to this woman and her two babies. And anybody who's a parent is feeling what I'm feeling right now. And not to even have anybody present in the room is a slap in the face on top of all the pain she's already experienced. So if we can't at least just send a letter and say, you know, y'all can show some damn humanity here at least. If the law is that damn strong that you can't even show humanity, somebody needs to address. Maybe we need to address the laws in general in the way this is all set up. But I don't know how many dry eyes there were in the room. Mine wasn't. And I've got kids who've been in car accidents. I have kids who've been to jail and prison. You know, the whole nine with, you know, the police department. And if the city of San Diego can't find a way to at least have someone in the room to show that that there's a human being, you know, some sense of humanity in there. You know, I'm just asking the commission to send a letter and say, you know what? After what we experienced in the room, y'all should have been in the room to feel that. Somebody should have been in the room to feel that. That's all I'm asking. But yeah, we can amend the motion any way you want to, but I still think we should send something to Eric Dargan saying, you know, we are here, we exist, we were put together by the city. There's never been, has there ever been another initiative that's had this many people in the city vote for it? And the least they can do is show it. They don't have to say anything. They can't get in legal trouble for keeping their mouth shut, just for being in the room. I don't think maybe they can't, but somebody should have been. That's all I'm saying.
Does someone want to second the amendment to the motion? Okay, Commissioner Diaz. All right, so the new motion is send a letter to the COO regarding disappointment that they couldn't show up and hoping the new chief does better with the community. Is that the way the motion was?
I'd like to hear a concurrence from the community that this sounds like not sure what to say to that.
For discussion, Commissioner Armentrout.
I think that if we're going to send a letter to the COO, it shouldn't be about one case and one policy. I recommend that it be about, we're here, we're involved, this is our charter, we expect X, Y, and Z, not just one issue, but that we need cooperation from the police, we need cooperation from the COO, and that we lay out some additional items that we're also very interested in: case management support, you know, how do we get all the documentation and videos, et cetera.
Commissioner Honore.
And I will trust in the wisdom of the cabinet to put together, I will trust in the wisdom of the cabinet to put together such a letter for the commission's review prior to sending it to the COO.
likely be our attorney who will put it together. Okay, Commissioner Case.
So just to clarify, the intent of the motion is that the cabinet would draft a letter, which would be reviewed by our attorney, and then the full commission would vote on the letter before it is sent. Is that what the intent is?
All right, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Opposed? One opposite and abstentions. I'll abstain, Alina. All right, so we need to continue this discussion because we have a lot on the agenda today. So moving forward on how to review the police pursuit policy, we came up with some ideas and we hope to hear from you. Hiring an outside consultant can take months because of the way the city works, the RFP, it just takes a long time. So while we can work towards that for other issues, there are ways we can do it. We have received, and also some people have researched the information, how many pursuits and the statistics. So we could possibly form an ad hoc committee on police pursuits that can really focus on that information and come up with recommendations for the commission. We can, we can consult outside consultants who may be able to help us from nonprofit organizations. Anyway, we want to throw that out, have some discussion on it, take a couple of votes. So I open the floor. Commissioner Malmat.
I like the idea of an ad hoc committee, and this might be a heavy lift. I would suggest to start thinking about this is looking at the vehicular pursuits report that the Police Executive Research Forum completed in 2023, and their recommendations are so specific and they seem really on target, and compare that to the SDPD's policy and look at where things are not aligned, and then go to the police chief and ask the police chief to consider modifying, explaining why they're not implementing it consistent with this new report. I understand it just came out in 2023, but really move the police forward on implementing something consistent with this, and looking at the data in combination and setting up a mechanism so that we can look at the data on an ongoing basis, not just the police pursuits, but the non-pursuit instances as recommended in that report.
Thank you. Second Vice Chair Case.
First of all, I was going to say exactly what you just said. And in addition to that, the San Francisco Police Commission did some research on the issue within the state, and they wrote a report which we also can look at. The PERF report also was a joint report of COPS, which is under the DOJ. And a second thing we can do is to, as I pointed out at the public hearing, there are certain reports or forms that have to be completed each time there is a pursuit. And it looks like that's what the UT did, because the UT, did that. I think we should do that ourselves. And so in addition to comparing the policies of our department with those of the recommendations from the PERF report, we also can look at the data. And I would suggest that we go back 5 years, starting in, they may not, well, I would say 5 years ending in 2023, and request those forms and have, the committee be tasked with that. To be looking at the data from SDPD, looking at the San Francisco report, and looking at the PERF report, and making recommendations to the department based on that.
Anyone else? Do we want to vote on forming an ad hoc committee? Did you want to speak? Oh, okay. All right. I move that we form an ad hoc committee to review the police pursuit policy and all the data that we receive from other sources, and that we get ourselves, because I know we were asking the police department for their data as well, which we have a right to have. and then review and make some recommendations. I would like an update at each meeting on how that's going. So do I have a second? Commissioner Rodriguez, we're giving it to her. Any more discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? As chair, I do have the right to ask someone to chair that ad hoc committee. And I have asked second vice chair Kate to chair it. And even if he gets a vice chair, if there's anyone else who would like to be on that committee, let us know right now if you'd like to be, or if you want to think about it. Excellent. We have Commissioner Rodriguez, Commissioner Flores. Yes, we can only have 7 per our bylaws. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 commissioners. All right, we'll go over that again. Flores, Commissioner Diaz, Commissioner Rodriguez, Commissioner Hilbert, and second vice chair Case will be the chair of that committee at this time. So what we would be looking at is updating every single meeting so we can keep the community informed of where we're at. So I would like to ask that we get a report from that committee at each meeting, find out where we're at, eventually come up with recommendations that this body will vote on, and then we will present them to the police department. We also had one more idea that, you know, Boeing does this, military does this when there's lots of crashes and things like that. And, you know, 2 kids died. We know that. That's what spurred this along. Let's all be honest. They do safety stand down. Now, I'm not suggesting, this is something just open for discussion. I'm not suggesting forever. Do we want to suggest that for a few days, and we won't determine what it is? Or we were also made aware of a different procedure. It's called a policy reiteration, where the police department sends out the policy to every single department member. And they say, okay, this policy, are you implementing it right? Because some of it that the ad hoc committee will look at is not just the policy, but is it being implemented correctly? So that's part of it. And then they discuss it amongst the captains with all of their officers. That's another way to suggest some an action right away so that we can just get them to look at their policy and the way it's carried out. Commissioner Case.
I like that idea because we're looking at this issue from 2 perspectives. Number one is does our policy represent best practices? And that's what the ad hoc committee we just established would do. But the other issue is the department following its existing policy? And are all of the members properly trained on the policy? And that's something that we can do immediately. And then we can also, by gathering data, come to our own conclusions whether they're following the policy. But at least if there is an immediate reiteration, but basically retraining, that gets everybody's attention. It doesn't happen very often. So when they reiteration, it usually is an incident, and if everybody in the department gets that, it kind of sends a message to be more careful and cross your I's and T's if it becomes necessary to do a pursuit. And so I like that approach.
Commissioner Benitez, I saw you grab that mic.
I move that we, as soon as possible, request that the department do a policy reiteration and as much training as they need to do to make sure that officers are following the existing policy.
And report to us what they've done in that regard.
Is there a second? Commissioner Hilbert, second? Yes.
I'll second it, but I'd also like to add, one of the things I'd like to add to that is I think, if I remember correctly from the discipline manual, I don't think there's anything specifically that calls out failure to follow policy on this. And I think this might be a good one for them to have a clear disciplinary action for officers who fail to disengage from high-risk pursuits. because I have a feeling this might go down as a minor policy violation, which is basically a slap on the hand. So we might want to consider making a recommendation of what we think that disciplinary action should be.
And does anyone want to put forth what that recommendation may be? Commissioner Case.
Well, I was wondering, maybe that should be a task of the ad hoc committees to recommend that as opposed to this particular motion.
Any more discussion on what, the motion? Commissioner Malman.
I just need a little clarification. So we're talking about the policy reiteration, but I don't understand what the safety stand down is. And is that part of this or not at all? Okay.
These were ideas we were going to bring to the commission. So to vote on. So we had the stand down as a possible action. We also learned about the reiteration after the agenda came out. So all of these are ideas that we are gathering. So that was for this commission to decide. And the motion that Commissioner Benitez made was to follow the reiteration, the policy reiteration route, rather than the stand down. We can take a vote on the stand down if that's what people would like. We brought them up as discussion items. A safety stand down, at least the way it has been done for organizations, companies, military, is, let's take the military. There's 2 Apache helicopter crashes. The whatever branch it is, they stop it for 2 days, 3 days. I don't know. They decide that. They look at the policy. They make sure the training's going. That was what the stand down was. And this was a suggestion. This was not anything that, okay. So, oh, hang on, Commissioner Benitez.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the explanation because I didn't know. No, that's not part of the motion. And I think that creates an issue. And I think we would get a lot of pushback from the police department. It's a public safety issue because if, let's say they're going to do that tomorrow and then there is a need for a chase for, a violent criminal who may blah, 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 blah. No. Anyway, just reiterating my motion for the policy reiteration. Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. And that outside counsel, Mr. Bennett has joined us virtually. He would like to speak. Thank you for joining us. I know that you were in mediation all day, so thank you for making time for us, Mr. Bennett. Go ahead.
So Commission, look, the item for the policy reiteration is not on your agenda. So technically you cannot take action on that. However, you can take action on it as far as the next steps item. And you would need to vote to bring it back for adoption or for vote at your next meeting. The only way you can vote on it now or take action on it is we would need to have a 4/5 vote of the commission, number one, to add it to the agenda, and you'd have to make a determination that there's an immediate need to take action on the item, and the need to take action on the item arose after the preparation of the agenda. So I'm not sure you can make those 2 findings, but you'd have to make those 2 findings. We'd have to have a 4/5 vote to add it, then you could vote on it. But I think the better practice would be to bring it back at your next meeting for a vote and for adoption.
Yeah, I'll try. You said because this motion was not on the agenda, all that was on the agenda was the stand down, that we have 2 options. Number one is to agendize it for our next meeting, which is what his recommendation is. The other is that we would have to, by a 4/5 vote, vote that it was an immediate need. Help me, and an action needed to be taken now rather than the next meeting. And that's what he said. And if I can say that I think I would accept the recommendation of the legal counsel to postpone action on this until the next meeting, so we can be properly.
Is there consensus on bringing it back to the next meeting? Go ahead. All right, so next steps, we decided against the safety stand down. And for the next steps, we will bring this back as part of the police pursuit discussion in 2 weeks. We'll put it on the agenda to issue a recommendation to the police department to do a reiteration procedure. Is that correct, Mr.? Thank you. So we will add that to our pursuit policy review for the next meeting. Okay, anything else on this?
I hate to say it, I think the same thing's gonna apply to the letter. Did we vote on the letter? Or did we not? Because that's not a non-agenda, we're here for that, for the non-agenda. We did. Okay, sorry.
Okay, moving forward now, we have the ad hoc committee, training committee. All right, we have co-chairs Hilbert and Momat.
Sorry, can I just ask a quick question? There was a vote on that, right? We did vote?
To postpone it?
But you mean vote to table?
Yeah, because that's what they did last time.
We don't vote to table, or do we? I know we did earlier, but I didn't.
We weren't permitted to vote on it because it was not properly agendized, and so the action was that it was to be tabled for the next agenda so it can be properly agendized. No, we don't have to because we don't. You can't vote on. Well, you can vote on tabling, but you can't vote on something that is required by law.
So we, about a month ago, we brought this, and we heard quite a bit of feedback from the community. We also heard comments from commission members. So we did go through and we made a bunch of different, I'll say a bunch. We made some revisions incorporating all the feedback. There's been a lot of changes here, and we did have 4 things we wanted to find time to discuss. One of the things we've done, if you look at the document, everything that has an asterisk next to it, that's what we feel are the most important training pieces that need to happen before people, or commissioners rather, join case review teams. We go to the second page. If you look down at 2C, one of the things we have in there is simulators. So that'd be using within the police department's training facilities, their firearms training tools. I wanted to open it up to the commission and the public to kind of chime in on whether they want to do that. There's on our committee, there's some discussion on whether or not that's helpful. And rather than us making that decision on behalf of everybody, we wanted to open it up to the full commission. So that was again 2C, it's the very last piece there. The other thing we, as I said, we did mark everything with an asterisk that we felt was the most important. Obviously, there's a lot of training that has to go on, but we want to make sure that we're aware that we aren't overloading people with policing related issues. So we've removed that and we've tried to put some other pieces in there. And again, nothing in here is set in stone until we vote on it later today. So if people have concerns or questions, we'd love to hear them now. And I'll open it up to public comment. Well, actually, I guess our chair will open up to public comment for it.
Let's open it up to public comment.
Thank you, Chair. We have 2 in-person public comments on this item. First, we have Kate Evanzetti. You have 90 seconds.
Thank you. So I wanted to make two comments. One is I did see that you took at ADL, and I'm really happy to see that, but I was a little concerned about the quote that said and other organizations. So I'm just hoping that that's a permanent removal, because if not, you'll hear from us again. I also want to say that this is a tremendous piece of work that this committee has done, and I want to commend the committee on that. I think I said that before, but I'm saying that again. And my other sort of last comment is we had also talked last time about having aside, and you put it in there, about having other criminal defense attorneys in addition to Mr. Bennett. And if you need any names, feel free to call me. And I'm sure other people, you know, Calvin Finch with Benitez and other people know some other criminal defense attorneys who would be really good and willing to assist with this. You've had them before, by the way, you know, Eugene Iredale and Chuck Sevilla and other people have already done presentations for the former CRB. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go on to Francine Maxwell. You'll have 90 seconds.
Thank you. As it pertains to 2C, we don't need to have a video. We need the community to come in and sign up, and you just have to pick a location. Toys, all the simulators. People need to have a real life experience. We also can go to a school. We used to have O'Farrell, where people would have on the paintball guns. We used to have our captain walking with the dog to see if you were going to shoot the dog or shoot the captain. So we really want you to make sure that 2C is not about somebody sitting and reporting. They need to, and you need to build on your partners. The Black Police Officers Association, our Hispanic officers, our AAPI officers, all of them can host the community at an event when they bring out all the toys, and then we get a twofer. We build community engagement with our officers, and then they get to learn the stress, the well-being of what officers go through every day too. So we want to do as many twofers as we can.
Thank you. This concludes public comment on this item. We have no reports.
Any more discussion on this item? Commissioner Armentrout.
A quick question. You said you added the asterisks, and those are topics needed prior to, when I read needed, that means there's 9 trainings before we can get into a case review.
I would like to ask that be changed to recommended instead of needed, because I think that is a lot, and we want to, they can learn case review, new commissioners from seasoned commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably a good idea. I mean, I think part of it is a lot of people, they learn by doing. So I'm good with thinking that needed to recommended change.
Thank you. Any other discussion? For Second Vice Chair Kate.
A quick recommendation, I think it was 7B. I would recommend Andrea Guerrero, who is the Executive Director of Alliance San Diego. She is on the statewide RIPA board, which stands for Racial and Identity Profiling Board. So she would be an excellent local resource. Andrea Guerrero. He's the Executive Director of Alliance San Diego.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Melman.
I just want to provide a little clarification on the last point that Brandon made about as we have new commissioners coming on board, maybe some of these trainings that some of us have already had would be offered again. And that's a good opportunity to invite any commissioners that haven't been yet to those trainings. And so one thing I personally would like to move is to ask staff to keep track of when people have trainings and then try and include them when they're offered again, especially have recordings posted somewhere that people can access.
I would like that to be a part of the motion if possible. And in addition, we want to try to bring trainings back to our meetings. We started out strong with that, and we had some trainings. Then we started to do all the bylaws and the operating procedures and everything else. So maybe we can have one training at each meeting. We can work together with the training committee to see who's available and what's available, and bring it for everyone to see. So we still want to work on that because there's always ongoing training, which we want. Commissioner Flores.
I was looking, just to see if there's any, conferences that police typically go to here in San Diego. And there's usually a couple every year. They have workshops usually that, they talk to police about what they might be able to do based off of what other cities do. And I think it'd be an interesting perspective to add that to the curriculum of what we should be looking at. To be able to have a voice in that, or to even just have a seat would be very interesting.
I think what probably makes the most sense is the idea here is kind of what's the most important, so we can start doing case reviews. And then we also have another training document which hasn't come to the full commission yet, but that's going to be a special topics. And that might be a good one there. That's kind of an optional thing if people want to attend. And to your point, it's good information, but I don't know if we want everyone having to possibly spend multiple hours there, because we're trying to be very aware of, as volunteers, how many hours can we dedicate every month to the commission. So it's a great idea, but I think we could put it in our next training document that we'll be bringing probably in the next month or so.
And also, if you find out when these trainings are, feel free to share them with Danelle, who can share them out to the whole commission. That people to them, they're welcome to. But it doesn't feel like, if they have time, that'd be great. And again, in respecting everyone's time, but I think that's a wonderful idea. Thank you for thinking of that. Any other discussions? All right, does someone want to make a motion?
I guess as the co-chair of the training, I'll make the motion to approve the document with the edits we've made today. And the last thing that co-chair Moment said.
If there's a training coming up and there's a new commissioner. I think Commissioner Armentrout seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? I want to thank the committee, the ad hoc committee, training committee. You guys did an amazing job, and I know it took a lot of time to do this, so thank you. The one is the case review strategy with Chief Investigator, Ms. Golu.
Thank you, Chair Tran. So just a reminder to commissioners and new information perhaps for commissioners who just joined the commission, that back in November last year, the commission voted on a temporary strategy to case review, which was going to March. So we are in March, so now is the time for commission to come back and revisit that discussion. Just keeping in mind that the commission still needs to draft the permanent operating procedure case review. That being said, the commission still needs to continue reviewing cases so you don't fall behind and the cases don't expire. Second Vice Chair Case will chime in momentarily about the operating procedure case reviews, but I just wanted to also give a refresher on what the current temporary strategy is on case reviews. It's volunteer commissioners, so commissioners who volunteer are split in groups, and that we currently have 3 groups. We have temporary mentors, which include Second Vice Chair Case, Commissioner Hilbert, and myself, who guide the groups, and I myself coordinate the entire process. The idea is that in a couple more months, commissioners who have been reviewing cases for some time now could potentially step up and take those roles of team leaders to coordinate the internal group review processes, and the temporary mentors kind of stepping back from the process. With the current approach, the commission has been steadily reviewing cases, reducing the number of the active cases the commission has, and the commission is getting closer to reviewing cases at least 90 days prior to their 1-year expiration deadline, which has been the commission's goal. And with the current pace, the commission will get to that point actually as soon as next month. So with that being said, I just wanted to give Second Vice to add a few additional things, discussions for your consideration.
Okay, well, and it's critical that we pass this motion, otherwise, after this month, we continue to do case review. And so it's basically a continuing resolution, and it would take effect and it would continue until we get new case review procedures that are adopted by the city council and gone through meet and confer. What we're currently doing is utilizing the existing interim procedures that have gone through that process. And we are in the process of drafting a new procedures. That is the next project of the operator committee. And so if people have thoughts on way to improve the process over what we're doing, feel free to let me know or anybody else in that committee know, and then the whole commission will have an opportunity to weigh in as well when we bring that before the commission sometime in the next couple of months. But for the time being, we approve this motion, and it'll be in effect until we get permanent procedures, at which time the permanent case review procedure will take over. Oh yeah, sure, thank you. So I will. No, wait. I guess you can make the. Okay.
Is there a public comment regarding the case review strategy?
There is no in-person or virtual public comment on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, you want to make a motion?
I make a motion that we continue the current process of doing case review until such time as permanent case review procedures have been adopted and approved.
Is there a second? Commissioner Rodriguez? Any more discussion? Commissioner Benitez?
Permanent procedures, this is post meet and confer,
Post meeting confer.
so ballpark.
Well, you know, the last ones did not take that long. The meet and confer on that was a meeting that lasted less than an hour. And so once it's done, it goes to the city council. Probably the question will be when will they get to confer? Because they're going to have the investigation procedures and the discipline procedures, and to do those take some time. So I don't really know, because it depends on how the city council decides to prioritize the procedures. But the view of this, I would not think is very long, because I don't anticipate major changes to the way we're doing it now. And what's already been done now has gone through that process.
Just to clarify for new commissioners, the CPP will vote on those operating procedures first. They go to city, then they go to meet with the police unit. Any other discussion? In favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Goloway. Oh, of course.
Thank you. And I just wanted to use that also as an opportunity to remind commissioners done case review that now may be interested to, you can always reach out and be part of the group. Thank you.
So we're ready to go into closed session to review cases. We have a number. We had to hold one for today from our public hearing, community hearing last week. So we will take a few minutes to get, actually, we're going to have, Dwayne, do you want to lead us into closed session, or do you want Dennis to read it?
Okay. Well, there'll be a recommended closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54-957 to discuss cases that are confidential under Penal Code Sections 832.5 through 832.8. That would be the recommended closed session.
Thank you. Dwayne, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Hope you can hear me.
You can lead us out.
Okay, the commission met in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54-957 to discuss cases that are protected under the Penal Code. The commission gave direction. There was no reportable action. That will conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. And so we are concluding our regular business meeting of the Commission on Police Practices at 7:28. It's adjourned. Thank you all for coming.